I'm Chef Michael, and you're listening to Life Lessons, episode number 2. Today we're discussing trust. Now, if you're a first-time listener, thanks for joining us. And remember, you can catch up on past episodes before moving on to this one, or just pick and choose whichever episodes interest you. If you're a returning listener, I hope you find this episode as insightful as the last. And as always, we'll chop, slice, and sift our way through some of life's many lessons with that chef's insightful twist. Now, without further ado, let's talk about trust. Trust is a great topic when we discuss what goes on in a restaurant because there are many different facets of trust. And some of those facets go against most of the things we were taught in our lives. Confused? Let me explain. Well, the first type of trust I want to discuss in the restaurant is between the patron and the restaurant itself. This is a great one. We spend most of our young lives being told that we shouldn't take things from strangers, we should never eat anything without knowing where it came from, and we should never leave a drink unattended. So, here's how the dining experience works out. We go to an unfamiliar place. We order food we haven't seen from a room with a door on it that we can't get behind. A strange person mixes our drinks and delivers them to us. And not only do we graciously indulge in this affair, but we pay good money for it when the experience is all over. Wow. What does that say about our sensibilities? Good cautionary upbringings right out the window. So why do we do it? Why do we trust a restaurant? Well, more importantly, how do we trust a restaurant? That's a good question. Now, I'll tell you firsthand as a chef that I had a hard and fast rule. I never adulterated anyone's food, ever. I always thought it was a moral imperative and an ethical responsibility to keep food safe and wholesome for a customer. Now, that's easy for me to say. It's my show, and you have no idea where or what kind of work I've done. But for the sake of this program, you'll have to believe that my chef hat has a shiny golden halo above it and that divinity was always my guiding light. So that being said, how then can you trust anyone else? Well, part of it is a pack mentality. If the restaurant is full and the people inside look like they're enjoying themselves, chances are it's all good. And in most cases, that's the truth. No one died. There's a cool sign in the window from the Board of Health with a rating on it, and you don't see any yellow caution tape across the door. So come on in. And that could be one reason. Trust is also built on reputation. So if you see that a restaurant is open for many years, you're likely to trust that this is a stable environment and that it's safe for you to eat there, and that gives most people some comfort as well. Then there's the social aspect. We're social by design. We want to be around people, and most of us have an emotional connection with food. So we loosen up our grip when it comes to trusting a place that fulfills those needs. There's also chance. Some of us just throw our hands up in the air and say, let's see what happens. And as long as you enjoy the experience, you feel that the restaurant has earned your trust. Now, here comes the part you didn't want to hear. How does the restaurant business manipulate that trust? And what should you be careful for? In the intro it says, Chef's Insight. Those faint hearts might want to stop listening now. I'm just kidding. You'll be happy to know that aside from a few horror stories here and there, most nouveau chefs and restaurateurs have been well trained, and they do have the public's best interest in mind. Plus, there's an old joke. How do you make a little money in the restaurant business? Well, you start with a lot of money. That's what makes your trust important. We're working on a shoestring budget with very low cash reserves in the bank and not a lot to fall back on. So if we're in the business of providing food, drink, and ambiance, we need you to trust us, or we don't get paid. Even the slightest misrepresentation could be a life killer. So, a few things you should watch out for. Number 1, if you order a bottle of wine from the wine list, check to make sure that the date on the bottle matches the one you're ordering off the wine list. Why? Because different years bring different prices. If you're paying for a 2015, make sure you're drinking a 2015. And yes, it does matter. So if you get a really good year and that happens to be the one the restaurant's carrying, and you're paying for that year, you want to make sure you're drinking that wine. So always check the label, check the date, and make sure it's the same manufacturer of the wine. Someone could bring you a 2015 with another label on it, and if you're just checking the date, you may not even realize that it's not the same company. So it's very important to make sure the vineyard and the date and the type of wine is exactly what you ordered. Number 2, and this one's funny. Check the color of the liquor from the bottles behind the bar. When I was a kid, I once worked in a restaurant where all the bottles of scotch behind the bar had the same color in them. Newsflash, folks, Johnny Walker, Dewar's, and Balvenie are not now, nor have they ever been, the same color. There's a lot of chemistry going on. And yes, it's highly illegal. You cannot pour another brand of liquor into a different bottle. And number 3, And this is important for the mixed drink people. Do not order top shelf liquor in your mixed drinks. That's correct. You may think you know the difference, but when you're 2 drinks in and the fruit juice and the sugars kick in, that's usually when it's bait and switch time behind the bar. Not always, but sometimes. You're either going to run into an unscrupulous bartender or an owner who tells the bartenders, listen, when you're mixing drinks, stop taking from the top shelf and start pouring from the well, and that's how they keep their liquor costs down. So be careful. Number 4, this is the funniest one. You ready? Is the fish fresh? Only if you caught it. Don't ask this question. If you have to ask if the fish is fresh, why are you eating in this restaurant? And let's be serious. How many people would order it if the waiter said, no, it's got a few days on it, but I think you'll be okay if you eat it? The fish is only fresh if you live in a coastal area during a certain fishing season. And if it's not indigenous to your area, it's frozen. Now, that doesn't make it bad. In most cases, it's frozen on the fishing boat, so the quality is very high. But it didn't swim up to the back door moments before you ordered it. Number 5. You ready for this one? Reviews. You want to trust reviews. Now, in this day and age with the internet, there's tons of reviews everywhere. Everybody's got an opinion about everything in the restaurant. But guess what? Some chefs, they don't want a review. Not a good one, not a bad one. I'll tell you why. A bad review is a subjective thing anyway. And a good review sometimes causes a temporary influx of patrons that will invariably throw off the flow of the kitchen and otherwise affect the food quality in the short term. Until the hype dies down, stay away from a new restaurant's great review. If you really want to enjoy the experience, wait a few weeks, see how it looks, and then go in and eat. And these are just a few of the minor infractions that could make people feel betrayed if they put their trust in a restaurant. But most of the time, it works out just fine. Oh, last one. This one's my favorite. You thought the fish one was good? This one's better. If the veal on the menu looks inexpensive, surprise, surprise, it's pork. That's right. If you pound a piece of pork loin, flour it, egg and bread and fry, voila, veal parmesan. Now, not always, but sometimes, so be careful. As I said before, golden halo above my chef hat, which means if I saw this happening, I usually didn't work in a place like that for very long. Okay, so this is one type of trust issue you need to deal with. And we, on the other hand, we need to live with the fact that we've betrayed your trust. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. However, there are other types of trust in the restaurant that are much more pertinent to your daily lives. There is a trust that must exist at work, in and out of the restaurant. Now, most restaurant workers spend 14 or more hours a day, 6 days a week, at work with the same people. Now, imagine what level of trust needs to be maintained. It needs to be so high that if someone gets betrayed even once, the system just breaks down. And I'm sure the same is true for whatever type of work you do. So how do you recover from that? You see the reference list I spouted out before? That doesn't surprise most people. Most people know the old buyer beware saying. And if they're out having a good time, they consider the watered-down drink every third drink or so to be just the cost of doing business. But when there's a humanistic issue, that's when people feel the most hurt and vulnerable. We do not like this feeling, and most times we go into a type of shutdown mode when it comes to dealing with ourselves and everyone around us, and it's not just the people that we feel betrayed us, it's everyone. Now remember, I'm not a psychologist or a social worker, but I can tell you firsthand that betrayal at work, especially in a restaurant, can come down to a very short list of things. First is everyone's favorite, jealousy. And this is not exclusive to the restaurant, but it makes for a good analogy. There are long hours, hot days and nights, very dangerous conditions, and not a lot of praise going around. So if someone gets even an extra crumb, it could start the war to end all wars. All the boss has to do is go to one station or one person and say, you did a great job today. And then the rest of the kitchen starts with the, I guess we didn't do a great job today. We only fed 400 people tonight. Here's an idea. The next time this happens to you at your job, look at the situation from an objectified viewpoint. Number 1, acknowledge that just because someone was told he or she did a good job does not mean you didn't. Number 2, good leaders know when a worker isn't being incredibly productive or may need a self-esteem boost. So a quick compliment may save that individual from continuing down an otherwise unhappy path for the rest of the day. 3, surprise. You may not be doing as well as you think you are. So instead of self-reflection, you submit to jealous rage and now believe that you can't trust your boss to assess your work correctly. Now, that's the first one, jealousy. The second, a lack of empathy or lack of strong moral imperative. You will work with people who appear to be trustworthy, and just when you least expect it, they have taken everything that you had to offer them emotionally, and they attack or betray you for their own personal gain. And then third and last, but certainly not least, is the one type of betrayal that no one will ever see coming. Psych and sociopathy. Yes, folks, this is real, and it's usually undetectable without extensive clinical training. As I said before, I'm a chef. I am not a psychologist, but I can tell you I have seen this happen. There are people that you can work with all day, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, for years on end. They are clinically unstable, highly calculated, and have no conscience. They work everywhere, and they display the characteristics of quote-unquote the perfect worker and friend, but they will get you, and you won't even see it coming. This is the worst type of person to have betray your trust, because over and over again, you will replay in your mind, how did this happen? What were the signs? How did I miss this? And guess what? There's nothing you could have done about this. There's nothing you could have done to prevent it. So what's the answer? How do you avoid trust issues and being left vulnerable to attack? Well, if we take a look at the example I gave you with the restaurant, it comes down to one thing: experience. The more situations you're in where trust could be an issue, the more likely you are to avoid the pitfalls based upon your past experiences. Now, that doesn't mean it's always going to work. You're vulnerable because you're human, and there's nothing wrong with being human. You see, that's a problem that we all face. We think if we've made a mistake or we've got taken advantage of, that it's 100% our fault. And it's not. It's just like any trust issue. Trust has to do with two or more people. There are things involved in trust. It can't be all one-sided. Because if it is, it'll be easy. But when you have to rely on other people and you get burned, then you get scared. So the first thing is this: use your experience, use your common sense, and if every once in a while it happens to you, it happens to everybody. And if you look at the examples I gave you before, I don't love veal when I go out. But if I do go out and I want veal, I don't order veal cutlets. I order a veal chop, something stuffed. So I know what it looks like. I know what it's supposed to taste like. And if I was a drinking man, maybe something neat or something bottled, not a mixed drink. That doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy a mixed drink every once in a while, but you got to look and see what's going in it. And when it comes to employee interactions and trust, keep in mind that even in a restaurant, even 14 or 15 hours a day, the people that you work with all have agendas and life goals, just like you do. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And in the unlikely case that some of these people feel threatened because of you or your work, you should keep everyone at arm's length for a while, especially if you want to maintain a healthy and emotionally stable work environment. If you do let people that you work with too far in, just remember, it could become an issue later on. Keeping with all the things I've said today, let's use one word as our takeaway: objectification. Before you put too much trust in any one person or situation, try to remove the emotional piece and use a mental checklist to assess some of the issues that could arise in the future. If you're able to put this situation out far enough away so that you can look at it as if it weren't your situation, you'll definitely be able to assess it better. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can always tune in to more episodes, and remember to check out the YouTube channel, A Chef's Insight, for more interesting recipes and videos. And if you have the time and would like to contact us with questions, tips, ideas, and future topics, please use the email chefsite@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Chef Michael, and this has been an episode of Life Lessons, A Chef's Insight.